everybody, and welcome to the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by Caleb, Ahmad, Sawyer. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Really good. Staying alive.
Yeah, staying alive. Staying alive. All right, we're going to get demonetized. Which we don't make any money off of this, so it's fine.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today, everybody. What's the plan? So we have a fun discussion about Spider-Man coming up for you. Spider-Man is kind of a tradition around these parts,
yes,
and we realized that Caleb has not discussed the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy on this show, which is a travesty. Just unacceptable, intolerable. We have to solve this today.
It's time.
So
we have to squash this beef today.
Yes. World War Spider-Man 2 is upon us. But that'll be later on in the show. What?
Is it just Spider-Man 2?
No, World War II Spider-Man edition. We'll call it that.
Okay. World War Spider-Man, just all of them.
This is the second one, so what are you going to call it?
Oh, I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we have some pretty great stuff. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because we are not talking about the news. There are better places to get a take on current events than this show, and as such, qualified. Yes, as such, just go somewhere else for your news coverage.
Yeah, it's always best to keep informed.
Yes. So with that, Caleb, you've been there's a show that has been rumored.
Yes.
You wanna talk about it a little bit?
Yes. Apparently, this is from a bunch of sources, including IGN, have been reporting on this, that there is going to be a Disney Plus show of, Kingdom Hearts.
Which is nerve-wracking for me.
It is nerve-wracking for me, too. I gotta admit, this is kind of this is going to be like a weird, flow of a topic of just, kind of really how the possibilities could be of what the show could be, because there's a lot they could go down in terms of whether, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, because I'm really hoping we're not going down the bad route. What I mean?
I agree.
One of the personal things that I feel like I don't want to see is I definitely do not. Well, obviously, we should first come out in the bat that this will not be live action. This will be animated, which is
good.
Which is a really
that's a good thing.
And Kingdom Hearts. Oh my god!
Imagine I don't trust very many people to do live action anthropomorphic animals,
right?
Especially not after that first Sonic trailer. So, it would have just been a really bad call to try to make a live action Kingdom Hearts series, which is kind of counterintuitive, because if you look at some of the CG in Kingdom Hearts 3,
right,
it's going for some photorealism, but
especially when you're in the Caribbean.
Yeah, Caribbean, and even in the secret episode too, there's some.
Yeah.
The character you fight looks very photorealistic at the end of that, so we'll see. But yeah, they're animating it apparently in Unreal Engine 4. Apparently, Square Enix is doing it, which is
awesome.
Crazy to me.
That's interesting. So they're animating. They're animating the show, right?
Yeah, so
at least the pilot. At least the pilot is.
That's not necessarily weird to me because I think Square Enix also animated a lot. I don't know if Sawyer could maybe speak to this, but
I think so.
They've never animated anything. Well, I guess that doesn't sound.
Well, if you want to count.
What were you saying, Ahmad?
I was going to say it doesn't sound surprising because, we've seen game developers, animate shows. I mean, there was Love, Death and Robots. So,
but that wasn't the devs. Those were CG studios who were dedicated to doing that kind of work.
That's true.
Those are different. Like a lot of.
But were they not?
A lot of games farm out the production of their pre-rendered cutscenes to studios.
Right.
Blur Studios is a studio that's, by my understanding, basically dedicated solely to that. Right. There's an anime studio that has a lot of its work farmed out to them for games and stuff. So it's what I find to be a little weird, and I don't know what Square Enix's departments, I guess it would be Square Enix Japan's departments look like in terms of doing pre-rendered stuff, but it's a little weird to me that a company that is dedicated to game development is reportedly animating a show for Disney Plus.
What about Final Fantasy VII Advent Children? Wasn't that a movie?
Good question.
Yeah, that was a movie.
It's a movie. Was it developed by?
Because I think Square also might have been part of. There's the Spirits Within, the first Final Fantasy movie that was animated.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know Tetsuya Nomura directed Advent Children. That's funny. No, there was a whole. It's owned by Square.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So they have their own in-house pre-rendered cutscene sort of studio that has done literally all of the pre-rendered cutscenes for every game that has come out. Under every game that has had pre-rendered cutscenes, including the American ones, are all animated by them. So yeah, it's not necessarily out of the question that they would have somebody doing in-house at Square Enix doing game animation or doing the animation for a TV show. But it is a little strange that they didn't get a different studio at Disney just because that's, it's owned by Disney. There are plenty of other places that Disney owns that they could probably have turned to do that animation, and they just chose to do it at Square Enix instead. So
I think it'd be kind of interesting. I think it would be kind of interesting if they did what was done with Alien Isolation, that video game, where there was IGN had some kind of thing they did. At least I don't know if IGN was responsible for it, but they were the people who published it. Where they took the Alien Isolation cutscenes and another animation studio, I believe it was the same studio who made the initial cutscenes, just isolated the connective tissue that was in the gameplay and was able to splice that in with the rest of the cutscenes. So essentially, they just took the cutscenes, made that a movie, and anything that was gameplay that was necessary for the story, they just made a new cutscene to link together the other cutscenes.
Oh, so it's almost like 358 and a half days in that sense.
So like what they could do is they could just take the Kingdom Hearts games and use all their cutscenes. And anything that is important story-wise that is gameplay and not cutscene, they just animate a new scene to fit with the rest of the cutscenes and kind of just make an animated movie or show from the pre-existing material.
I guess that's where it kind of was like, where the first option where I was thinking where this could go down is a retelling of the first game.
Yeah, I don't want that.
I don't want that either. Not necessarily because
we've had enough of those.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those games already, kind of retelling the first game, which is fine. You know, it's fun to call back to it, but also the first game. Honestly, any of these games are very massive in story. That like I don't.
Yeah.
Any kind of retelling of them kind of makes me like nervous because it's like I feel like they would only make the story more confusing and more condensed if it's a retelling.
Right. There's a lot of motivation that you can potentially lose if you cut stuff down, because part of what's essential to the story of the entire franchise is just how many characters there are that are all like equally important.
Yeah.
And so like if you dismiss, like you could argue that there are a few characters who get sidelined in certain games because they're not as important to that game specifically. But if recent years have made anything clear, it's that Nomura created every single character with the express purpose of them having kind of a long game to their existence, and that does not necessarily mesh well with a 13-episode, 20-minute retelling of a game.
Right.
Like that just doesn't. I would like to see a side story in the universe that has nothing to do with anything that's happening right now. That would be my preference.
So kind of what I was hoping for is I'd hope, you know, Ezra and I, we've talked about this before. I don't know if it's been on the podcast or not. I would love a sequel to Backcover.
That would be the other option.
The kind of just continuing from that story, or even placing it after Dark Road, which is kind of where we're going right now. Like placing it after Dark Road, just filling in those small gaps that we haven't gotten yet, and making it a little bit, I want to say easier in that sense.
Yeah.
Of understanding the story and everything that happens between there, because very clearly, without giving away, what seems to be in the past is seeming to be what the future is going to lie for this series.
Yeah, like Caleb and I talk a lot about this like immediate circumstance that happens at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. But like, I always have to stop and think about the fact that there's this whole other like Emperor Palpatine plan happening on the other side of the franchise, and I'm just trying to like not think about that,
right?
But like that, it has been proven that the mobile game is far more important than we gave it credit for, which is unfortunate. But it's the world we live in.
Yeah.
I would like to see that, like a kind of like even just a short again, like 13 episode with like half-hour episodes that just kind of smooths out the storyline, so like it doesn't get too bloated. Just smooth it out and then tell the story up until at least where we are in the mobile game, if not a little bit beyond that, so it can conclude.
Right.
So at least we know what happens.
I would agree.
And then, I'd like to see that. I mean, I would, again, like, I'm a big fan of the idea that establishing a universe is only worthwhile if you're going to start telling smaller stories that exist within that universe. So I would be a big fan of a side story that happens in like you get like a microcosm of Kingdom Hearts that starts out with some guy in some guy off in like a world that we've never heard of before, and then like, you know, he goes to 3 different, maybe more obscure Disney worlds. Maybe stuff that would be hard to do in a game, like Cars.
Right.
Do some of that, and then it just kind of ends, and that's the end of the story. Like, there's nothing beyond, like, that character will not matter for the rest of the franchise, and we'll never hear from him again because he just exists. His story happened.
That. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know.
It's not possible because Tetsuya Nomura will do Nomura things. But
I think another possibility is, if we're not getting anything that I'm kind of thinking like within the what's to come type of idea. So like we, you know, if it's not going to highlight what's going on in the past, I really think what some of the stuff that's set up in the Limit Cut episode of 3, with either following the Birth by Sleep trio or the Twilight trio or Days trio, whatever you want to
you know,
say.
If Square Enix wanted to give me a slice of life anime about Roxas and his friends, I would not be mad about that. I would not tell them no.
I think next to a back cover option, I think that is probably the best option to get a lot of fans on board.
It's probably the most optimal option, in terms of getting the most people, making the most people happy, and getting the most people on board. Just say like, hey, this is a good start, a good jumping off point for the franchise. You don't have to have watched anything beyond. You don't have to have consumed anything beyond this. And you know, if you liked it, here are these collections for the entire franchise. That will be playable on both Xbox Series X and PS5. Like that's a really good message to send to a group of people who have not had any exposure. Is like, hey, you don't have to have played these games, but if you like this thing that we just did, here are a bunch of these things that not only follow up on it, but inspired its creation, which that would be probably the best financial decision they could make. I think the best creative decision is probably like See, I would have liked Kingdom Hearts Dark Road to be a show,
right,
and not a like that would be interesting. Just get Drake Bell and Ben Diskin to record a bunch of voice lines for a day, and then make a show out of that, and like it doesn't interfere with anything. It's not creating new continuity necessarily. Although Nomura's gonna Nomura, so we don't know. I can't trust this man with anything.
Exactly.
We thought we could trust him with Final Fantasy VII, and here we are. So like,
what is it? What is fate?
I'm still holding out for my Square Enix cinematic universe. But yeah, like that. I guess that's my thoughts in a nutshell on the show. Is just like there's a good road to go down that I hope they're brave enough to indulge Nomura in, because letting the man just sort of do his thing is going to produce the best results. Because if you don't, you end up with a game like Kingdom Hearts 3, which has some dissonance between its Disney side and its Kingdom Hearts side, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. I got some more thoughts on that, but I will say, to wrap up the whole Disney Plus idea, I actually really like the idea of Disney making a Kingdom Hearts show. I think it'll bring a lot of new fans into it, and if I would have seen this show, as a kid, I would have definitely watched it. I honestly think. I think it's a great idea on Disney's part, and definitely a new way to get more streaming, more audiences to the platform, than just your Star Wars people and your Marvel people like myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and broaden the audience a little bit more, get more of a wider range.
Larger subscriber base too, theoretically.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that seems very smart. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to, because I don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts, so a little tempted to, but my plate's quite full. So when's it coming out? When is it?
We have no clue.
There has been no official announcement.
So they still haven't even made it, right? They're still in the process.
They haven't made it. They haven't like teased us about it. Nomura has been radio silent since Final Fantasy VII released.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, we have no information beyond there is a show and it's in development,
right?
Which is understandable given the current all of the current circumstances right now would inevitably lead to a breakdown in, hey, when's my next Disney Plus show happening?
Do we know when, like, this is kind of going off topic, but like, besides The Mandalorian, do we know what the lineup is for Disney? Like what?
It's in shambles right now.
Because
I mean, like, well, I guess I don't know. I wasn't clear, but like for Disney Plus, what do you guys know? Besides, like, maybe, well, have they even confirmed the Kingdom? So, like, is it It's an announcement, like it's a confirmation, right?
It's been rumored by so many different sources, that it's like
likely
something's going on. There's clearly a show happening. We just don't have any details about it.
And apparently, from what I'm hearing about the origin of this, it's been very inspired from a lot of people having to be staying at home and like coming up with new story ideas and stuff like that for the streaming platform. So I think that's why I think that's why we're even getting a show like this. But as far as I know, to answer your question of what was originally the plan, as far as I know, I actually thought, and it's definitely not going to happen now, but I think the way the lineup was going to be was that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going to come out first, then The Mandalorian Season 2, then WandaVision. But
yeah,
I don't think we're getting any of the Marvel shows this year because I don't think any of them finished filming before this whole thing.
What I had heard, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was almost done with filming,
Right.
except they had a couple scenes in Budapest that they were going to film that once the international travel got shut down, they couldn't.
Mm.
So I think really minus those international scenes, I think that show is largely done. But I
Right.
think WandaVision and Loki aren't going to be out for a while. Those are definitely going to get pushed.
Right.
yeah, those are getting pushed. I would imagine.
Mandalorian I know is coming out, and I know Artemis Fowl was supposed to be a theatrical release, but I think Disney has pushed it to a Disney Plus release.
Yeah, I think it comes out next week, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure it is.
And it's like, other than that, which wasn't even designed as a Disney Plus release, I think really
Right.
the only release that is confirmed, pretty much confirmed, to be coming out this year is Mandalorian Season 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good one. I guess out of all of those, I would have liked for Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Me too. And especially, I'm not finished with Clone Wars, but like, I feel like whatever is happening in Clone Wars is going to play a heavy factor into Season 2. But especially if you're looking at the reports and rumors and it's just all that stuff, it seems like I'm not finished with it. I got about I got 8 episodes left. I watched the Bad Batch last night.
Did you watch the Darth Maul stuff?
No, not yet. I ended last night just on the final part of the arc. But yeah, I'm going to watch that video, and then I'm getting back to those 8 episodes probably tonight. So I'll probably be done with the show by tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, like the good thing is that those Darth Maul videos, I don't think I've even mentioned those to our audience. I probably should have at some point. Give that account a shout out.
What
Do it.
Oh yeah, for those of you who are fans of Clone Wars, there was a arc that was supposed to originally be part of the original series, but when it got canceled, it didn't, and Disney decided not to animate it as part of the final season. It was called the Son of Dathomir, and it basically explains what happens to Maul between the final episode of season 5, or I guess not the final episode, but at the end of season 5 and at the end of season 7, basically what happens to him at that point. Disney did release it as a comic book, but there's a YouTube channel, I was going to give them a shout out, called Star Wars Audio Comics, who essentially take comic books from the Star Wars world and then take the different panels and animate them on their YouTube channel and add complete voiceovers and different like actors and actresses to each character. So it's essentially a motion comic that they're creating.
That's pretty
and
cool.
There's 4 10-minute videos that basically tell the story of the comic as if it was an episode of the Clone.
Oh, cool.
And it's pretty neat. Like they do the voiceover narration at the beginning. They have the
they did the voiceover narration. That's awesome.
Yeah, like they just like at the beginning of the episode where it's like darkness on Umbara, like stuff like that.
Right.
They do the whole thing. And
It's
really neat to be able to, even though it's not a fully episode.
You know, I kind of love it, but I also feel like nobody can do that voice.
Besides Tyler.
I mean, like, obviously, it's not the same, but it's at least neat to be able to like watch what could have been, at least in a somewhat animated format, rather than reading it.
Sure,
that's cool. Yeah, I'll
highly recommend watching it at least before the final arc, just so you can see how Maul got from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
right.
That I'm definitely going to check out. But do we want to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3, or do we want to just move on?
Yeah, we have time.
Okay. So, segueing sort of off of our Disney Plus topic, I recently, I'm on a mission. And that mission is the Platinum Kingdom Hearts 3. And,
this is a task even I am not willing to undertake.
I'm almost done. But you know what? I decided to throw some spice on this recipe. I decided to do it on critical mode for the first time. And I gotta say, the critical mode on Kingdom Hearts 3, out of any other Kingdom Hearts hardest difficulty, like some of them is the hardest is proud, and then some of them the hardest is critical. Out of all of them, this one was the weirdest in terms of balance.
It's the most whacked out balance. I haven't even beaten Kingdom Hearts 3 critical, and it's the most whacked out balance I've seen in any action game I've ever played.
Yeah.
I play the first Devil May Cry game. That game's hard, but it's hard the whole way through. Like, there's nothing about that game that is not a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 3, the very first fight, the very second fight, is just critical, kicks your teeth in.
Yeah.
And then, like, you play for a little while longer, and, like, yeah, it's pretty easy. You know, encounters in Kingdom Hearts 3 are generally pretty easy.
Except for the water
then you
course.
you get to Toy Box.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like,
Toy
what
Box
is going
was a
on?
nightmare. And I mean a nightmare. I'm not even kidding. Like so if you're following me on my own Twitch channel, I didn't stream the doll fight. You know, the
Oh, you didn't?
The possessed doll, because like I didn't feel like the critical I didn't feel like it was worth streaming until I got to that fight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insanely hard. Why is this so hard? And it's literally the track is tension rising, so that's like nightmarish as it is. So like,
wait, it is?
Yes.
It is? Oh wait, no, that's sorry, go ahead. I'm thinking of a different song.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, no! It was so irritating. I was fully raging and everything, and I'm like, all right, we gotta stream from here on out. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then from that point on to, I would say, for the rest of the game, it was pretty much a breeze for me in critical. But because I think part of it is because my pursuit to get trophies during the whole time. So like I end up leveling up my character really like a lot. And I end up forging the key, the Ultima Blade, like immediately when it became available to me. So like those final fights just breezed right through them. And I was level 49, which is not the max level. So I thought I would still have some balance in terms of the level. Most of those fights were kind of easy for me. I will say the Saïx fight gave me a problem. And
you're talking about the Keyblade Graveyard.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That fight gave me a problem. But other than that, even like the ultimate Xehanort's fight, where all three of them are, Xemnas, all those people are fighting on you, and like it wasn't that hard to me. I don't think, maybe because it was just like an adrenaline rush or something, because that fight. It's such a great fight, but Yeah, it was good. So I will say I'm a bit disappointed in the critical mode on Kingdom Hearts 3 in the sense that I felt it was too easy, but it might have been just me with my whole trophy progression thing that might have threw out the balance itself, which is understandable.
I mean that's to be expected a little bit, but I also feel like I think there's room in Kingdom Hearts for some in 3 at least, for some balancing in terms of like balancing the enemies closer to your progression, because it doesn't feel like the doll fight is balanced very well for where you're at in the game.
Oh no.
It doesn't feel like that in standard, let alone critical.
Yeah. You need second chance for that fight, and you don't have second chance.
Yeah, and it's like that's something I would like to see the team improve on in future games. Because like 2 critical mode is hard the whole way through, but like it never, when I played it, whenever I play it, it never felt like I was being punished for just like being in the early game. Like it doesn't, that game doesn't really feel like that. Like the closest you get to that is in Mulan World, with like these dumb enemies that twirl their spears around.
Oh yeah.
But like,
I remember
but like beyond those guys, it's fine. Like it doesn't hurt you too much. It doesn't hurt you too much for being in the early game, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see that be improved on a little bit, because the team is different now. The team is working on Kingdom Hearts. So that's something I'd like to see. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I haven't beaten Kingdom Hearts 3 No, that's a lie. I did, but I beat it. What did I do? I beat it with. I beat it on like. I beat it on New Game Plus with the Ultima weapon or something like that, which is not optimal by any stretch of the imagination in terms of creating a difficult experience.
That was some of the things that I liked about having like my New Game Pluses, like Thanos snapped out of my existence. To work from the ground up was actually, I felt pretty cool. I will say what was great about going through this time around is I actually experimented more with different keyblades and stuff like that, more so than I did in any of my other playthroughs, which I had a lot of fun with.
Oh, okay.
I had a lot of fun with just seeing how all the keyblades worked, and I really like that, how well they did the keyblades in this game. And
yeah, they're cool.
Looking at the story 1 year later, I will say the individual stories I think are really good. Like the individual world stories and how it's tying in with the box and stuff are really good. I will say,
except for Arendelle.
Yeah, I would agree. There still was a problem, and I even said this last year when I gave my initial review. There's still a problem of having that overarching Disney plot with the events that are going on. I still think the first game does actually the best with the Disney plot, in the way
I agree.
It's intertwined with the story, because we get this whole box art throughout the whole entire 8 worlds that you're in, and it's not even like brought up in the third act until a certain point, and it's basically like, hey, remember this? Well, you'll get your answers later in a different installment, which is kind of
tune in next time.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing and kind of ruins that overarching plot of at least the Disney worlds a bit. But other than that, I mean, I still think the story is just as good as the way I thought it was the original time I played it. Yeah, that's about as much as I have for the my.
I just think ultimately Kingdom Hearts 3 suffers from having trying to do just a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think you cut out Arendelle and you put and you split all of that playtime, or you shift around the worlds a little bit and make a mid-game Kingdom Hearts 2 climax.
Mm-hmm.
And that game and Kingdom Hearts 3's issues are all but solved. Just because right now you have the opening is great, the Hercules is great, but then you go to 2 more Disney worlds, and then you get a little bit of plot progression, and then you go to 4 more Disney worlds, and then all of the plot happens at once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not good for a game. That just doesn't work well in for pacing. So I would have liked to see just a mid game world.
Tying everything together.
Yeah, because Kingdom Hearts 2 suffers from pacing issues, but those pacing issues are a problem of too much, not too little.
Yeah.
The whole second visits thing to each of the worlds is that's not
right.
It's not very.
Wasn't necessary.
It's not very fun. Yeah, it's not necessary. Not terribly fun either. Some of them are good, but not all of them. Yeah, so let's move on. Talked Kingdom Hearts for long enough.
Oh yeah.
Sawyer, you've dabbled in a couple of other things recently, right?
Yeah. So mainly, I've been watching some an old animated show. It's not really that old, but it's one I've been a fan of for a while. Called. Have any of you guys ever heard of it before?
Oh, you cut out when you said its name.
Oh, I've been watching Archer. Have any of you guys heard of the show Archer before?
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it.
I've never watched it, but I've heard of it.
That's on Adult Swim, right?
It's actually on FXX.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
It's basically I really enjoyed the first 4 seasons specifically, but I've been watching a bunch of it all on Hulu now, because now that all of FX's stuff is on there. It's basically, it started off as a spoof or parody of the old James Bond movies. It's like a 60s spy. And what kind of makes it interesting is it's still a spy show, but it's essentially an Office-style comedy, but with spies.
Interesting. So more of a mockumentary kind of style?
Kind of. I basically mean in terms of that office place work environment kind of comedy.
Sure.
But inside an MI6 type office.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's definitely more for mature audiences despite being animated. It's I really do love the animation style as well. It looks like a graphic novel. It's kind of cool. the characters are all really likable, but what really sells this show is the writing is gold. Like, it's hilarious often. The transitions are what I really find interesting. Is somebody will say like an insult or something, and then the next cut, like transition to the next scene, will be somebody we're like talking to somebody else, but the response seems almost like it's a response to the previous line in the last scene.
That's funny.
Oh, okay.
So somebody will say something like, like, I did this, and then the next scene it'll cut to another character in another environment saying, you did what? But it's talking to another character.
No, I get that.
Interesting.
And then it really keeps the pace really moving, and it's all of the comedy is great. I definitely recommend checking it out on Hulu if you have Hulu. It's a great show.
I'll definitely probably check it out at some point because I'm trying to look into more stuff on Hulu that I'd like to watch. So
yeah. It's definitely a mature sense of humor, and but I guess it's for mature audiences. Mm-hmm. But I think basically the way I would describe it, the first 4 seasons are definitely the James Bond parody. Is kind of what it is. Then you have the 5th season, which is kind of a Miami Vice parody. The 6th season goes back to being the spy thing. And 7th one is a private detective agency. And then, interestingly enough, without spoilers, seasons 8, 9, and 10 are all a dream inside of Archer's head and are not necessarily canon with the quote-unquote real world. So, obviously, the new season was supposed to have premiered last month, but got delayed because of the virus. But it's supposedly this could possibly be its last season whenever it drops. But even if it is, especially those first 4 seasons are just some of the funniest television I've ever watched.
Okay,
check it out.
Great,
funny television. I just recently finished on Sunday. This past Sunday, the 4th season of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
How is it?
Has it dropped on Hulu yet, or?
It's not on Hulu yet. So the season that on airing on TV is over. So I would bet it probably will drop on HBO Max relatively soon, which would mean it'd also probably be on Hulu around the same time.
Gotcha.
The season was, I think, personally stronger than the last season. Mm-hmm. There's the season 3 seemed to kind of necessarily not understand the balance between the comedy and the drama. It tended to lean a little bit too much on the drama. I think season 4 found that balance again, and also this was kind of I liked the overarching plot of Rick starting to lose control and Morty starting to kind of fend for himself a bit more. How much of the show have you guys seen before?
Go ahead, Ahmed.
I was gonna say I haven't really I was kind of surprised because I thought I had seen all of the episodes, but the other day I was watching it on Adult Swim and there were some episodes from season 1 that I hadn't seen. So I'm gonna go back and maybe just recheck and watch the ones I haven't seen. But I've seen pretty much most of it, if not all. Like I said, there's some that slipped, I guess, but I've seen most of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Oh, I was just gonna say I've seen 2 to 3 episodes. I haven't watched the full series yet, but I know my brother was really big into it. And he kind of had a very similar thoughts to Sawyer in a sense of the first 2 seasons were great, and then the 3rd season was a little bit of a letdown. And I mean he hasn't seen season 4 yet, but yeah.
Season 3 has got some great episodes. Was not there as the first 2 seasons had.
Yeah. See, I watched none of it.
Yeah. Did I cut out again?
Yeah,
A little bit.
No, okay. Yeah, I definitely recommend the show. I think
you cut out again, sorry.
the big line, especially.
I'd like to watch the fourth season when it comes out on Hulu, though, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the show, despite the way the
underwhelming maybe
its way online is with any.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry, everybody. Sawyer's having some Wi-Fi issues, so
Yeah.
If he cuts out every now and then, that's why. Please don't stick with us. We'll solve the problem.
We're working on it.
Does having consumed endless amounts of turned himself into a pickle memes count as watching the show?
There's one.
I wish it did, because then I could say I've watched Rick and Morty.
Yeah, you cut out. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I asked if consuming endless amounts of turned himself into a pickle memes counts as watching the show.
I think it means you now know the sense of humor of the show.
Yeah. I think you'd like it, Ezra. I think Caleb. I think you'd like it.
I bet I would. I bet it's my style.
Oh yeah.
The writing is very sharp. That's what I like about it. People are like, oh, you have to have a high enough IQ to understand Rick and Morty. It's just garbage. Like, people who are acting like that about the show are the people who give the show a bad name.
Yeah.
But the writing really is sharp, and it's got great characters. I
was genuinely surprised. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I've seen most of it, but I haven't seen it in a while. So when I saw the episode on TV the other day, I was really surprised. Like, the writing was really sharp and funny, and I was like kind of upset that I missed out on a great episode. I'm gonna have to go back and sift through. The thing with me is it's unfortunate because I got into Rick and Morty late, and I think I started like season 2 or season 3. So I think that it's very likely that season 1 I missed out on some, because the first season was like 2013, right? Someone could look it up or something, but yeah.
I cut for a second there.
No, you could. I was gonna say the first season was 2013, if I'm not mistaken, or 2014.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
that sounds right to me. I like,
but it's been around for. I mean, like, I guess they skip every year. 2013 is when it was. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they've made seasons every year, but I need to check.
That's good. That's a good workflow. That should be. I would argue that should be industry standard.
Yeah.
Like, don't release TV seasons every year. Release them every 2 years.
Right.
That way you can up the quality while still maintaining fan base.
Right.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting out. So you guys are talking about the release schedule?
Yeah. We were just talking. Yeah, we were just talking about the release schedule. How, like, it's not every year, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. There is something, I think, from what I've seen, is that they really try to keep the writing quality consistent, and so that's why it's taking so long with the getting the season. Now that Adult Swim had renewed the show for 70 episodes last year, from what Justin Roiland has said, is we're going to get episodes somewhat more frequently. It's no longer going to be like 2.5 year waits.
Oh yeah. Look at that. That's the one thing that kind of confused me. Sorry. I was gonna say that's the one thing that confused me. Sorry, I was gonna say that's the one thing that confused me, because like 2013 was when the first season came out, and then like it really started to blow up like season 2. Would you say season 3?
Yeah,
I would say season 2.
Yeah, And now it's like a cultural phenomenon, right? Everybody knows everybody knows what Rick and Morty is, at least.
Right. Right.
Thanks in part to the Szechuan sauce debacle.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I was gonna say season 2 was 2015, so that was 2 years, and then season 3 was 2017.
Okay, so it's actually been closer to 3 years.
Yeah.
For this new season, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm definitely gonna try to check it out. But all of them have really great ratings on Rotten Tomato.
I'd like to give it a watch at some point. I have a hard time with comedies. There are not very many comedies that I like, but
I mean, it's kind of like a very kind of you have to have like I guess there's different tastes for comedy, different kind of comedy and kinds of comedy, and I feel that not all comedy appeals to me either.
Yeah. I would definitely say that if you like Rick and Morty, you would definitely like Archer and vice versa. And they're both on Hulu, so I definitely recommend checking both out.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to check it out actually. But yeah.
Sorry, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we move
I'll see if I can get it out before my mic cuts out again. But I just wanted to mention that recently.
That was very unfortunate timing. that was very. Go ahead, Sawyer.
I'll type them and then I'll have one of you guys read them all.
This is going to be some very interesting podcast innovation.
Yeah.
I bet actually you could make a whole podcast just out of Discord conversations. That would actually be kind of funny.
Just have the Google voice recorder just say or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Animated voice.
I hate it, but I love it at the same time. It's one of those things that I hate it so much, but never have I needed it so much as well. Yeah. All right. We're getting.
I'm texting him so that you can see it in the chat in case I cut out again while I'm talking about them.
I love it. This is peak podcast innovation right here.
Oh, yes.
You're never getting more interesting podcasting than right here at the Lab Rats podcast.
Speak on behalf of Sawyer.
There you go. They should be coming through right now in the chat. Okay. Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day to you. Ready or not, Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters. Yes. So all of these movies are ridiculously stupid and not great, but I wanted to watch something that I would laugh at due to how cheesy it is, and not necessarily a great.
Yeah. I've seen Happy Death Day, and I think I actually saw it in theaters, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, wow.
Yeah.
Happy Death Day got good reviews. Wow. I'm surprised you didn't like it.
I can't remember if I liked it or not. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's even more unfortunate.
The first one,
it was pretty thrilling from what I remember. I'm trying to remember.
Other kids go to see on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I think it is a nice twist on the typical slasher movie formula.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it looks like to me.
I think. The second movie, I'm good.
Okay. Was it?
Yeah. So
Sorry, Sawyer's cutting out again. I think I remember Happy Death Day to You releasing to much less fanfare than the first one.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely less well received.
The first one, like the first one was simple and it didn't try to make things confusing. The second one tries to introduce all this lore and continuity and everything, and it gets really convoluted.
Interesting. That's like the downturn. Like, I mean, like a lot of sequels usually do that. They try to expand lore, especially
like this one. It just tries to go too big, and it's like bigger in the case of slasher movies usually doesn't necessarily mean better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, the first film really seemed to appeal to like your Friday night teenager kind of. I mean, that's what made the slasher films from like the 80s and 70s so popular. I mean, I would say it's pretty much a dying genre at this point. You don't really see as many slasher films.
Legacy ones like Halloween and all that still live.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They're not making any more Jason movies, are they?
I don't think so.
They're not making any more Jason movies, are they?
Which movies?
Jason movies.
Oh, no, I think there's some weird legal...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard about that.
Yeah, because that's what the game had to go through as well. That went a couple years ago. It came out. That had its own struggles and stuff, and which is why that game actually kind of like died because they couldn't do any more. They couldn't add any more content. I think, which is unfortunate.
And this next one I was going to mention, Ready or Not. Have any of you guys ever heard of that?
I've heard of it.
I actually think you would, Ahmad specifically, I think you would really enjoy this movie if you haven't seen it.
Let me see here. Oh, wait, hold on. Actually, I don't think... Oh, this is a new one. Wow.
Yeah, I think it came out last year.
Wow, so
wasn't it about like this hide and seek game that just goes terribly wrong for some reason?
So, I in case you guys watch it, I don't want to say too much because I went into this movie basically blind, and part of what made it so enjoyable is that I basically knew nothing about it.
Okay.
Well, I looked it up. I mean, like the thing is like when I heard about the movie, it just sounded like it was one of those, really bad horror films, like Truth or Dare, Ready or Not. I don't.
Well, that's what I originally thought it was going to be at first. Is another one of those like bad Blumhouse like January, February horror films.
Right.
And that is not what this is. This is much more of a drama.
Really?
It's like thriller.
Oh.
Sorry, you're cutting out a little more.
Oh, it's like a drama / thriller.
Oh, gotcha.
Really.
Right.
Fortunate.
Basic. Did I cut out again?
Yeah. Okay. Just have a spurt of talk or something.
Yeah. So, the basic premise.
Oh no.
This is unfortunate. Here, Sawyer was talking about the basic premise, so I'll look it up.
And on her wedding night is hide and seek with her new family.
Huh. Well,
I don't want to say too much.
Well, yeah, you definitely didn't say too much there because you cut out a little bit.
Okay.
No, but I mean, I think
you got the basic premise.
Yeah, which is good because I've already looked up the reviews and I kind of spoiled it. But like I'm gonna watch it. Is it on any streaming services at all, or
it's on HBO right now?
Okay, I'm gonna have to. I think I temporarily have HBO, so I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
It might be on other services. I watched it on HBO, so I know it's on there. But I think out of all the 4 that I just listed in this chat, the only one that I would say was legitimately good was Brett.
Okay. That's high praise.
Hansel and Gretel, was that the?
It's a movie starring Jeremy Renner and I forget.
I think
Arterton.
I think when did that come? Oh, 23. I actually saw that movie. I've actually seen this, and
Yeah, it's terrible.
The most ridiculous premise for a movie I've ever seen.
It was. I don't think I made it through the entire thing. Actually.
Yeah, it's. I will say I did like the only things that I really liked about this movie is that the cast was fine.
Right, the cast was fine. Yeah, I liked they played off each other pretty well. I think, from what I remember.
The cast is fine. I really like the production design. Like, I think that pretty a mature version of fairy tale settings is really interesting to look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But other than that, this movie sucks.
Right.
I think it's. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have that much to say about Hansel and Gretel. Just that, I watched it at 2 a.m. on a Thursday night when I had nothing else to watch. So 90 minutes.
So you've seen these recently, then?
Oh yeah, these all within a day of each other.
Okay, so I was gonna say I'm impressed. I don't think I would venture as far as to go back and watch that movie. It's in the I guess the caves of my mind. I haven't thought about that in a while, but
You guys know, as weird as it is to be a film major, I almost enjoy watching cheesy B movies more.
yeah, I agree with you. To a certain extent, I feel like I'm just I've become a snob in a sense where it's just I only watch I could only watch a movie if it's a 90% or more. I just it has to be totally it has to be something I've heard of or something that's gotten some kind of recognition. And I don't really watch any of those. These movies, I've Hansel and Gretel. Gretel is a film that I think it was 7th or 8th grade when I watched it, and I don't really watch movies like those anymore, which is unfortunate. But,
right.
Well, to me, it always goes back to you mean these movies were made for people to like them? Like that. I think as a film major, it's easy for me to kind of box. Well, not just be critical, but to box quote unquote types of movies into different categories, which is useful if you want to talk about genres or whatever. Right. But in terms of what you, again, quote unquote, should be watching, I always remind myself yeah, there are some great movies, but if you want to spend your time watching something else, what does it matter? There's not. I just don't think there's an argument. I don't think I have the grounds to make an argument that people should be watching one or the other. And I think I can easily find myself doing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that's the thing I like about our discussions is we're all of us here aren't film snobs in that sense where it's, we appreciate films that I want to watch Hobbs and Shaw. I think that's on HBO, but but we also appreciate films that are a little more tasteful. Yes, I mean, I don't know, whatever that means, but yeah,
films that are a little different from your blockbusters.
Yeah.
We do the indies, the blockbusters, as well as the B movies and the Oscar films. Yeah. We do everything in between.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say I haven't seen. I mean, would you say Birds of Prey is a blockbuster? Would you consider that a blockbuster? Because I haven't seen one.
Well, I consider it a blockbuster type of film.
Yeah. It's. It's definitely meant to be a blockbuster.
Birds of Prey, yeah. I mean, like I said, because this time last year, we had seen Avengers Endgame. I think it was Avengers Endgame. What else? Well, there were some more blockbusters that I'd seen, but I just feel of course it's. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I saw Sonic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what'd you say?
I was just saying one of the blockbusters I saw was Sonic.
Oh God!
That made back 3 times its budget. You can't tell me it's blockbuster.
That's a blockbuster. It made back 3 times its budget. Wow, that's a success.
Is that true? That might not be true.
that
might have been a lie. All I know is that the sequel is confirmed.
Yeah.
So that
the sequel.
and the virus snubbed me out of going to see Vin Diesel's Bloodshot, so I'm upset about that.
It's gonna be. Are you gonna say that every show until you actually
until
get
I
to
see it? Until I get to see it, that's the only thing I'm gonna say.
You're like 70 years old. The coronavirus snubbed me of watching Bloodshot.
Yeah.
Movie theaters are going
in the Bloodshot reboot by then.
Movie theaters are going to come out.
Super funny.
And we're all going to go see Tenet, and then there's going to be Sawyer just going to see Bloodshot.
I don't know. I'm excited. Hopefully, I think they haven't pushed back Wonder Woman yet, have they?
Not yet, but Tenet might take up the spot. It depends if movie theaters open on time or not.
Is there any word on when movie theaters are opening? Because I feel like that'd be like one of the last places.
Depends on a state-by-state basis, really.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is it's mid-July where they wanted to open with the release of Tenet. The Tenet release date. They want to open that week.
Right.
But not even Tenet is willing to... Or Tenet is willing to... commit to a release date right now. So.
Right.
It's just turned through June, right? Well, that's kind of crazy because I just feel like for some reason I feel like we should be further in the summer. I don't know. June. I think last year this time we were just finishing up school, right? Weren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Which would have been when we. Would have been the end of finals week and would have been around the end of finals week last year.
Right.
So yeah, we're well into sort of the summer season.
Right. We are. Yeah.
At least in terms of films.
It just feels like there's nothing to do with my life. Like the other day I was just driving around. I was walking around Books-A-Million and I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know.
Watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I gotta watch Rick and Morty.
Watch Clone Wars.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that's keeping me busy with the fact that there's no summer movies. Is now I can get caught up on all the things I missed.
All the TV shows.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. That's how it's been for me. Like, I haven't been able to talk about much on the podcast is because I have this show that I'm watching right now. I have this show that I'm watching, and I'm just waiting till I get to the ending to finally talk about it.
No, I need to. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna figure out where I left off in Clone Wars. I know I can figure it out. And I'll pick up from there and then just watch. I think 2 seasons and a half left for me, which isn't terrible.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna start trying to probably work on that fan edit of the Siege of Mandalore too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we're stalling the inevitable here.
We are stalling the inevitable. I'm sorry. I have to stall a little bit longer.
Sure.
Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is preparing for its final season, and Caleb, I know you're a big fan, and you wanted to talk about that for just a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be pretty brief. Just kind of like my anticipation for the final season. In a sense of next to Arrow, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably one of my favorite shows that is on TV right now. I've gone on here and said that I think the last time I talked about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the podcast was all the way up to season 5. I think I never talked about season 6, and I loved the first 5 seasons. I always said every season got better and better and better and better. Season 6, one of the things that we talked about when we were talking about of the best shows of last year, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't get on my list, and Sawyer was a bit shocked by that. I think I remember that. It was because, as much as I liked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, I think it was a bit of a letdown in the sense of, I think the problem is like, and this is the big question going into this final season. Oh, what was that?
Oh, no, you're good. No, I don't think, did Sawyer say something?
I think he might have.
No.
Oh, my bad. So I think one of the big questions of this season is because season 5 ended in a way where it felt like the ending to the show, and that was the original intention until it got approved for season 6, and this presumably at that time it got approved for the season 7, which is what we're on now.
Okay.
But the season 6 was a lot of setup. Like, there wasn't really much of there was a plot with Coulson, and basically, and there was a main villain of the season and stuff, but it really was a lot of just setup for this season. So as much as like I want to say like, oh yeah, every season gets better, it was just mostly season 6 was just kind of, I would almost want to argue, kind of just there. What was that?
No, you're good, Kale.
I don't think anybody said anything.
Oh, I might be hearing stuff. But that was kind of my feelings for season 6 going up into this season. There was some crazy twists, and there was some really cool episodes. Like one of the episodes that I really liked in season 6, and you'll get to it. And it's I think it's with Daisy and Simmons. I think they both were in the same. It was just those two centric episode, and it was really well done. It was really funny. It was great. It was so it's going to be interesting on how everything ties in with at least this season's twist. With every season, there's a certain like specific like comic book type twists, whether it's time travel, whether it's, we have Ghost Rider at one point, LMDs and stuff.
Right.
It's just, I'm very excited to see where things go down, and I'm wondering how this ending, because technically this is the official ending now, how this ending will fare to the original ending. And also one of the big problems I had with season 6, now that I remember, was its connectivity to the MCU, where they were like, oh yeah, it's no longer connected type of thing, which is a big letdown considering season 5 kind of ends heavily connected to Infinity War and leading up to that. Which is kind of like really weird that you would like have it connected and then just suddenly not connected. You know what I mean?
So S.H.I.E.L.D. is officially not part of canon anymore?
From what I've heard about this season, it's getting back to be fully canon. In some way, they're going to twist it around. From what I've heard, that they're bringing some MCU tie-ins, maybe even certain characters showing up with this final season. So, who knows? It's going to be weird. It's going to be wacky. But I am excited for what they do with season 7. I haven't watched last week's episode yet. Last week it started. I plan on watching that probably sometime this week. That's both last week's and this week's episode. And there are only 13 episodes this season, so it'll be a quick season, but honestly much needed in a time of there's no new stuff type of thing coming out. So I'm very excited. Yep.
All right. Oh, Caleb, you cut out a little bit. Are you good?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. So, are we ready to go to war?
So this is where you're wrong. I've always been ready.
This is a long-standing battle.
Welcoming Caleb to the arena. This is the offer. It's going to be exciting.
So I will try to remain from being too negative. And in the spirit of that, I will not talk first about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
We want to hear your thoughts, Ezra. We want to hear your thoughts.
Well, no, you'll get my thoughts. I just don't want to hold you my thoughts. So somebody else talk. I don't want to. I'm not going to be the first shot.
Well, I mean, I'll since I guess I'm the one who brought this upon us. I'll be the first one to talk. No, I mean, I'm going to start off with the first one. We could go around and say what we want to say about each one. But I mean, the first one's a classic. Tobey Maguire's in some the Spider-Man suit. I was thinking of the word for like what's like not. I'm at a loss for words. It's just so good. No, it's a great movie. It's a classic. I think one of the first superhero films I remember seeing, and really, I can't say anything bad about the movie. It's just so cheesy. There's some really cheesy lines. We had to, for film 2, we had to re-edit a part of the scene where we redubbed the scene where Tobey Maguire and Mary Jane meet for the first time. Yeah, it's. I think it's on Kale's Instagram. I don't know if any of you've seen it, but
I wish I had gotten to see that.
I play the voice of Tobey Maguire, or I redub the voice of Tobey Maguire, and then Kale redubs the voice of Mary Jane, and it's pretty epic. It's awesome. It's pretty good. You should check it out. I'll try to find it and send it to the group chat or something.
I remember watching it. It was really funny. It's really good.
Yeah, it's great. But I had to mention that. But their chemistry is just like I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about their chemistry, how they play off each other, because I feel like their chemistry is almost like it's almost non-existent. I don't know. I mean, there's some moments where it works, but other moments where it's just like, what's going on? And I have a lot to say about. I'm honestly, I just have a lot to. I have a lot to say about the third one. The first one is good. The first one's fine. I mean, Green Goblin is come on. You get the Green Goblin action. I mean, Willem Dafoe enters the superhero realm in such a flashy way. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it.
I quite enjoy them, actually. Like I don't think they're perfect, but what I like about them in comparison to the Tom Holland ones or anything like that is they feel like Spider-Man, if that makes sense. I know it's like Spider-Man, but they feel like a comic when you're watching. Like it feels like an old 60s comic on screen, whereas what I don't like about the Tom Holland ones, even though I love Tom Holland as Peter Parker, is they just feel like MCU movies. They don't feel like Spider-Man movies.
Right.
That's true.
These feel like Spider-Man movies, and I really like the tone. I think J.K. Simmons is perfect as J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah. Really, I think the only weakness that I really give this film is I think the core 3 leads with Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and Harry Osborn, I don't think they are the best cast for these roles.
Yeah.
I agree.
Harry Osborn. That's his acting is so funny. I guess I will. Caleb, what do you have anything to say? I'm sure you have a lot to say about the first one.
I love all three of these.
Yeah.
And I will stand by that. I will stand by it. I love all three of them. The first one is like it's definitely aged, but like it's like a good aged cheese sort of thing. Thing where like.
I mean, I like how you put that, an aged cheese.
It sounds worse. I don't know what you're saying. That makes it sound like it was once good, but now it was bad.
No, that's the thing with cheese. As it gets like aged cheese. It's like aged wine.
Right. It's definitely one of those newer. It's definitely like one of those older type superhero movies where it's like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still trying to find its own footing type of thing, but it's
taking after the tradition of the Christopher Reeves Superman,
right?
Rather than what was established with the X-Men movies. I mean, that would be the first instance of sort of an MCUification of superhero movies. Would be the very first X-Men movie, I would say.
I would agree. Yeah, I would definitely agree. The special effects, this is a little bit kind of getting into the age portion. The special effects, unfortunately, are starting to really age in the sense that they're not holding up. But nonetheless, I still love this movie. The first one is it holds a special place in my heart. I grew up on these films. They taught me who I am today in terms of like morality and stuff, and I think Green Goblin is a great villain for this first one. I think Willem Dafoe does an amazing job. I think he was such a great he did such a great performance. I can't see anybody else doing the Green Goblin in a proper way. I've always wanted him to come back somehow in some way to reprise his role and stuff. But and that's one of the other connective tissues that I loved in all three of these films is that it's still somehow tied in to that original. To the Green Goblin and the original villain, and I really like that.
That's true.
It made things really feel canon, and like nothing felt like it didn't. A lot of times, sequels like to push down the past film as if like, but this is a better villain and a bigger villain, and not necessarily that's a bad thing, but like. Having that connective tissue of, I would almost say, kind of like a balance of what came before. Like every villain seemed equally formidable in that sense.
Sure.
Right. I
love the second one. I still think the second one holds up.
The second one is one of the best.
The second one is the only one that I actually really like, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I give some concessions to the first one. I think it's a good first outing, but I would agree with Sawyer. I think the cast isn't the best. I think like a lot of the first part of the problems I have with the first one boil down to like I guess I just don't really like old style comics that much ultimately, and I don't think it translates super well to the big screen either. Like I think there were some sort of some difficulties getting that to fit onto the big screen. especially with with the balance between goofy action and like the more human stuff that Sam Raimi was obviously trying to do, but a lot of it he just doesn't pull off, especially the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, if we're moving into that, I feel like Spider-Man 2, I'm still not a big fan of Tobey Maguire in that movie, and I haven't been a fan of Kirsten Dunst in the trilogy for the entire thing, as far as I'm concerned. And then James Franco is kind of just off in the distance doing whatever. But in spite of that, I feel like Spider-Man 2 figures out what, like, it's unfortunate because it's the only one that like realizes what is good about Spider-Man and like plays to it, whereas like the third one, whereas like the other two like have issues with that, but like the second one really understands Peter Parker in a fundamental way, and like Doc Ock is great. Like there's a lot of really great stuff about 2 that I wish they had just done more of instead of 3, but we'll get to 3.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I mean, Spider-Man 2, Azri kind of mentioned it, but there's more of an emotional focus there. That isn't really there. I mean, the first one is really just setting things up, but the second one is really more centered around characters, I think, and developing Peter Parker's character a little more. And then, like you said, Doc Ock is more of a sympathetic villain, I would say. You kind of sympathize with his plight. And you kind of
really cool.
Yeah. You feel a little sorry for him. But I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that have been said about the second one and how it's one of the best superhero films. I mean, it's personally not my of course, top 5, but it's up there. It's up there though.
Oh yeah.
And I think they I mean, James Franco really doesn't. I'm not really interested in his character as much until Spider-Man 3. There's a lot to talk about there. I mean, really, I'm just looking forward to that. But no, the second one's a classic. I can't.
Spoilers: the war starts when you talk about Spider-Man 3.
That's the interesting stuff starts to take place. I mean, but I think for the most part, we all agree about some of the same points. Regarding the first and second ones, but yeah.
I think I overall like the trilogy a lot less than you guys do, but I don't think they're especially the first 2. I don't think they're bad movies. They're just not to my taste.
All right. I got something for you. Sam Raimi Spider-Man films versus the prequels. Who would win?
Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
Who's the worst? Who's worst? Who's better?
See,
why am I?
Okay. This is totally off topic, but I feel like my opinions on the Star Wars prequels are so situational that they don't actually exist. I watched the most recent Star Wars prequel I rewatched Attack of the Clones, and I have to say I really liked it. But I think if I went back to it, there's a non-zero chance that I would actually hate that movie. So I can't speak to it because I have no idea what my opinion on the prequels really is.
I would probably say hands down, for me, it's the Spider-Man trilogy that is a better trilogy that holds up than the prequel trilogy. Because only to me, like, you know, I don't want to like bash on the prequels or anything, but you know, because I do like the having just recently watched them, I do have them pretty fresh in my mind. You know, I will say I do like the prequels and some of the stuff that they set up and like the lore expanding, but the first and second, I would say, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I'm not particularly a fan of. I love 3. I will defend Revenge of the Sith. But
it's not what we're talking about. But yes,
right.
I switched the conversation up a little bit.
I'm just saying, as a trilogy, if I'm looking at the 2 trilogies, I feel like the Spider-Man trilogy holds up more than
the. That's fair. No, I mean, I think I would agree. I mean, I would probably agree with you. Although, like, they both have their equal amount of cheese and.
Oh yeah.
Well, I feel like ultimately, if I'm just gonna try to look at it as just like in terms of what I think, like, I feel like the Spider-Man trilogy has more better movies in it than the Star Wars prequels. That's what I would say. Like,
right. I mean,
there are 2 bad movies at least, or there's only 1 bad movie at least, or at most in the Spider-Man trilogy. But in the Star Wars prequels, it's like at best there are 2 half decent movies in there, and then like. One, and like no matter which one you think is half decent, one of them is half decent, or one of them is like fine. But like, yeah, like the Spider-Man trilogy has at least 2 good movies, whereas the Star Wars prequels have at most 1 good movie.
Right.
It's just like whichever movie is the good one is up for debate.
Yeah.
That's what at least.
Well, I think for me, what pushes it is, at least for better or for worse, George got to make the movies that he wanted with the prequel trilogy. Whereas for Raimi, if you look at the Spider-Man trilogy, he got to make the movie he wanted for 2 out of. So
yeah.
I think. With Spider-Man 3, my main issue with that is I think there's a good movie in there. It just gets bogged down by all of the unnecessary filler.
Yeah.
I think if...
I mean, sure.
Hey, I only want to do the stuff with Sandman, and it was just all Sandman. Like, all of the stuff in there with...
Yeah. No, I mean, it's surprisingly emotional with the stuff with Sandman.
Yeah, like I would.
Harry is fine.
Yeah, no, there's some classic moments with Harry. Like I mean, I guess let the floodgates open. Let's just talk about Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
No, I mean I
have feelings.
yeah. Azra has his thoughts about it. I think. Sorry. I cut you off. I didn't mean to. If you wanted to.
Oh, you're fine. I was mainly just saying, like, I think now I can't remember. I can't remember who said this. I was watching some YouTube video. Spider-Man 3 feels like a.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
like it's almost like each of these movies, like it's almost like all the stuff with Venom, all the stuff with Sandman, and all the stuff with Goblin are all separate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree with that.
Together.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you cut that stuff out, like if you just cut together,
only the Sandman stuff. Yeah, like I feel like. So I guess here's my issue fundamentally with Spider-Man 3, and I don't want to be too mean, but
go off, Azra, go off.
But like the Sandman stuff, fine. Like I think the Sandman stuff is like pretty good.
Right.
But the rest of the movie is so bad. like
That's
even the
enjoyably
stuff
bad.
that has nothing to do with Sandman, the stuff that belongs in a separate movie, is all so bad that even if it had been its own separate movie, it would still be bad. and
I don't
like
know about that. I don't know about that.
I just think back to the finger guns and to the.
Okay, hold on. The finger guns. There's some. I love.
Probably about the symbolism of the finger guns.
Listen.
I'm just going to leave the chat.
Wait a second. Let me explain it a little bit. I mean, I think that I agree with you to a certain extent. I do think that I guess Tobey Maguire's idea of becoming a villain or becoming a
edgy
is to like pull down his hair. I love that.
It's so bad.
There's just like just put down his hair and start to like
it's kind of ironically funny, but only to a certain extent.
I mean, I love the movie. There's like thousands of videos online that like either glorify it or villainize it. But I mean, I think that I agree with Sawyer's point where there's a potential. There's potential there. I love Harry Osborn's scene and the pie eating scene. That just I love the acting. It's so funny. It's like, the waitress asks him if he likes the pie, and he's like, I'm not gonna even try to like just repeat. I try to imitate him. It just sounds so weird. His acting is horrible. I mean, it seems like he's like on drugs for most of the movie.
It's unfortunate because Spider-Man 3 is probably the movie I want to like the most.
Here's the thing. I'm pointing out the back. Like as a kid watching the movie, like the last scene where like Spider-Man's getting like pulverized by the Sandman. It's just like it's so inspirational. Like you can't help but feel like you want him to. You just want him to.
Caleb, I'm gonna ask you to stop.
There it is. So good.
Context: Caleb is posting Spider-Man 3 gifs in the group chat, and I do not appreciate it.
Like I just want to cry after that, dude. It's so good. It's awesome. No, I mean it just ruined somebody's relationship. I think I think Tobey Maguire. There's an interview. I don't know if you've seen. There's like I was mentioning. There's like YouTube videos, but there's an interview with Tobey Maguire, and it's so funny because like he talks about how he like tried to like Sam Raimi gave him some leeway like to explore the dark sides of the character, and I just love his idea of exploring the dark side is just like pulling down your hair and doing some dancing.
Tobey Maguire might be a nice guy, but like he is. Like that, like his acting is not stellar in Spider-Man 3. Like it is.
He's
exceptionally bad,
but he has some pretty good dance moves. You gotta agree. I mean,
I can unequivocally state that yes, Tobey Maguire is actually a pretty good dancer.
Is in the nightclub and he's just like. It's just so easy to dig on this, and he just starts to break down and dance.
I do think when you watch this movie, you can clearly tell that Sam Raimi doesn't care about Venom at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't Venom like the like character who the studio wanted to shoehorn in the movie?
So basically, the way I understand it is that Sam Raimi wanted Sandman as the villain, and like there always was going to be the whole Sandman and Green Goblin 2 thing. Like Harry was still going to be the second Goblin, but that was mostly going to be like
right. It wasn't going to be
was originally not supposed to be in the movie, but because his toys were selling well and Sony was
Yeah. I mean, that makes
Venom. Put force Raimi to put Venom in here, and that's what all of his scenes feel so like extraneous because they're not even supposed to be there.
Yeah,
God.
and it's definitely like I would argue like you know how like sorry you had said that like had they been their individual movies that only the Sandman story would be good. I genuinely think I think that the only real problem with this movie is actually Venom.
Yeah.
The stuff that's set up with Harry Osborn was set up from the very beginning, but again, it was only forced into that first act, and it wasn't really explored upon until after that, and that's I feel like a little bit of the real disappointment with the Osborn arc of the third movie is because it's like we finally get that matchup that's been teased for 3 movies now, and it was done quickly, and Harry Osborn got this little bit of amnesia to kind of pretty much sideline him for a good portion of the movie until the final act.
It's just like nothing flows in this movie. It's like there's distinct sections. You've got the beginning, which is all about Harry, and then that stops. Then you have a big section about Sandman, and then that stops. Then we do Venom, then we cut back and forth. There really is no distinct through line of any kind of story. It's just cutting together different chunks of plot.
Right.
Yeah, which is just like there's a difference between like having different acts in a movie. Like Batman Begins is a 4-act movie, but it worked because all of those acts, while distinct, are like flow together pretty well.
Right.
They're all about the same thing too.
Yeah. Whereas like Spider-Man 3 has like 15 acts and like none of them work very well together. Except that I guess like you could argue that the Sandman, like thematically speaking, like it's pretty well put. The correlation with Peter, Sandman, and Harry Osborn is pretty well done.
Right.
Yeah.
But like,
I remember like the end of the film where when Harry Osborn dies, it was actually really emotional. I remember.
Forget whether he lives or dies.
He dies.
I never remember.
He dies. But I mean, like you guys already mentioned, I feel like if Sandman's character was enough, like it would have been on par with the second film, where I mean the villain has a plight that we sympathize with and what they're trying to do to provide. So that would have worked fine on its own, but they just had to shoehorn Topher Grace's character, which, although I mean it did offer its own funny gem moments, which are great, but don't serve the story at all. But they're great movies. All 3 of them are great. I mean, like we know how Azra feels. I mean, and I don't necessarily disagree with anything he said. I just don't think he's giving it enough credit.
It's more of like a scales thing, I think, at this point, where it's like we all acknowledge that this movie has some very significant problems. I just think that those problems matter more ultimately than you guys do. Which is fine, because a lot of people disagree about how big a problem things are, but
no, I mean, unfortunately Toby's career didn't go off after this, didn't blast off, but
he still works. He does like I think he played like a doctor or something like that in a movie recently. I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, Topher Grace kind of made a comeback, but yeah. Some great moments. I loved seeing him in the street. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought it was cool as a kid. I was like, Toby really. I just looking at this scene where he's like going down the street is just. I wanted to be like Toby. What can I say? But, I think that sums it up. I mean, I don't know. This is kind of a very fast, brief go around, but I think. If you haven't checked these movies out, I don't know if I would recommend. I mean, I would recommend the first two. I'm sure.
I would recommend them all.
I mean, if you have time, watch them. At this point, I don't know. I feel like these are films you would watch. You should have watched in your childhood to really get the impact. But
I feel like they're really good. Like if you're a kid, I also I would argue that they're good pieces of history.
Yeah, I mean, history, like the superhero genre.
Yeah. Like I feel like they're like do I think that the first Christopher Reeves Superman movie is like really that great? Nah, like it's fine, but it's not
right.
Amazing. But like that and like the Michael Keaton Batman movie and like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, X-Men, the first Iron Man movie at this point, like all of those movies matter.
Right.
And like they matter not just for superhero like the superhero genre, but at this point they're cultural artifact.
Right.
And
I mean, some of them are classics at this point. I mean, Iron Man is going to be a classic, I mean, if it already isn't,
Yeah.
Like I would argue, the first Iron Man movie isn't the best MCU movie, but it's certainly the most significant movie.
Yeah. I mean, this, and also, I mean, speaking to the like the Sam Raimi films, it's pre-MCU, so like just to get an idea of what the how they were just still trying to find their groove and what was going on.
And I would argue that Iron Man finds its success in building off of what Sam Raimi got right in Spider-Man 2 and what like what X-Men got right and what all of these other movies that came before it builds on it in such a unique way that ultimately created an entire genre style at this point. Like every superhero movie is kind of like an MCU movie, for better or worse. Even if it's not trying to build a universe, it's a little bit like an MCU movie.
But I mean that's I guess that's all I really had to. I mean, really, I just wanted to talk about Spider-Man 3.
I respect that. I also don't respect that.
You're entitled to whatever you want to think, Ezra. I'm sticking to my guns. I think these movies were there for me in my childhood, and I think Caleb could say the same. And
I would agree.
I get that.
I mean, I'm not saying that
these movies.
No. Like I said.
Well, and these are movies that everybody should have an opinion of.
Right.
So go watch.
Yeah, I mean, get an opinion, gain an opinion on what you think of the third one. His dance is impeccable.
Send us an email.
Send us an email.
I will say, like, just I typically like rewatch these films every year. I love them. I'm actually due to rewatch them again. I'm very excited. I always watch them over the summer. It's one of those type of things that I do. And I'm very excited. But I will say there is one piece of news that we haven't talked about that is relevant to the Sam Raimi films. J.K. Simmons is fully J. Jonah Jameson for a very long time. And that is the best news
Wait, so he's just. I saw you mentioned something like that in the group chat. Did Did he is he coming back for the third?
It sounds like he's coming back for the third and multiple different Spider-Man films.
Oh wow!
So it sounds like they're just going to use him in general. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him into the Spider-Verse.
Wow. Is the third one? I mean, they're definitely making a third one. Is there a title or anything?
Not as of right now. The third one was due to film this summer, but that got delayed.
Right.
I don't know when it comes out anymore because of all the MCU release schedules got messed up. But we'll see. I'm a little worried that they might have to do rewrites because considering that it was supposed to take place during the summer and New York is very seasonal. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Who knows?
They might have to. Or, I mean, that would suck if they have to push it back to next summer, but I'm excited. That's awesome. Some great news.
Right.
That is great.
One of the most memorable characters in the movies.
Now, all we need is Tobey Maguire to come back. Yes,
I'm telling you, just a cameo.
Yes.
Just a cameo.
Just a cameo.
Tobey Maguire as Uncle Ben. I want it very badly.
How old is he? Would he be a good Uncle Ben, do you think?
Well, he would match. Well, he's probably around. He's probably
40.
close to 40, if not older than 40 at this point.
Yeah.
44 years old.
44.
Yeah, I think he would match well with age with
Uncle Ben.
If we're talking at least if we're talking the MCU Spider-Man right now, he would match a lot of I think a little bit of Marissa Tomei's age and stuff.
So he would. I was going to say that means he's married to Marissa Tomei.
Yeah.
Possibility that we get a Spider-Verse where these two at least have cameos.
That'd be
I would love that.
Garfield in there.
Yeah.
Have Tobey Maguire and James Franco and diner eating pie together or something.
Oh no.
This is an instance of be careful what you ask for.
So good.
If I was in theaters and I saw that, I would get up out of my seat and just clap.
I mean, you should have said that with the original Into the Spider-Verse is like, the whole when they did the finger pointing thing, I just lost it.
No, I wish I was in theaters when just to get your reaction to those to that movie, but yeah, I have to rewatch that too. It's on Netflix, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's everything. I think we're just about out of time for today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to get on my soapbox yet again. Stay inside. Stay safe. We're not out of this yet. So, don't put yourself at risk unless you find it necessary. Which, given current events, you may very well choose to do so. With that, Sawyer, would you be willing to rattle off the social medias for us?
Yes, you can find us at CastKate, at CASTCATE on Twitter because of our old. You can find us just by searching for the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram at the Lab Rats Podcast. And you can find this podcast wherever you're listening now, as well as on the following: Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Twitch, and Stitcher.
I think that's it. We did it.
Awesome.
Right.
And I did it all in one take without messing up.
Let's go.
That's weeks of practice.
Weeks. Years. At this point, it might be years.
Yeah, except not with Twitch and Stitcher, but doing the general thing, it's pretty much has been.
All right. Well, Ahmad, Caleb, do you guys have anything else you want to say? Anything you want to plug?
I mean, no. Thanks for being paid. Thanks for listening to us. Hopefully next week I'll have seen something.
Oh yeah.
we can talk about, so we don't have to dig in the recesses.
The archives.
So yeah.
I should have some good things to mention next week. I've got a couple things in store that will add to Sawyer's sci-fi fantasy corner, like you.
Well, do you have a title of the film, or do you?
You want to save it?
All right. Now, you can tell me. You can tell me after. So maybe
keep the suspense.
I'm very confident I'll be done with the Clone Wars next week. So that's the big by next week. So that's the big title, I think, for me next week. I think. Who knows?
I don't know what I am going to have done by next week. That's too much planning.
Too much planning for the year.
But I did just get Persona 3, so maybe I'll play that. It has an instruction manual.
Which is crazy.
It's a PS2 game, so it makes sense. But I miss instruction manuals. I used to stay up reading instruction manuals. Oh man, it's great. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week or the week after. Our schedules tend to be pretty volatile. So, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.